Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker, and today is the 14th day of January 2024. And I have a reading from the last book of the New Testament, Revelation, and it's a picture of an ideal. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them as their God, and they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away." It's been a tough 10 days. A week ago Friday, Elaine got word that a friend in California, a friend who had been her friend for over 40 years, had passed away from Parkinson's disease after living perhaps 15 years with the disease. Kathy was a traveler. She had traveled all over the world. She had visited us here in Kentucky twice. Elaine had been Kathy's guest on 2 different birthday trips over the years, once to Hawaii and once to New York City. We knew that Kathy was not well, but she had been not well for a very long time, and it was a shock to hear that she had finally passed away. 2 days later, we got word that one of Elaine's few remaining tuna friends, Marianne, had passed away. Her funeral was this last Monday in Cincinnati, and we were able to attend. The Tunas were a group of 12 women, all of whom had taught at Lincoln Elementary School in Cincinnati at some time. They got together monthly on a Friday night, supposedly to play bridge, although they met for over 50 years and never once played bridge. They called themselves the Tunas because they met on Fridays, and several of the group were Catholic, and so there were lots of tuna casseroles served at their get-togethers. Marianne had buried her husband Jim within the last 3 months, and the process of Jim's decline took a huge toll on Marianne. We learned last Sunday afternoon that Marianne that her funeral would be Monday. We had no other word that she had passed away or was in danger of passing away. Now, I understand that part of getting old is that you wind up dealing with the death of your friends and your contemporaries. It's not unexpected, but it is hard. For me, as my role as minister, I have officiated at most of the funerals that I've attended in my lifetime. And it's really unusual for me to just attend a funeral as I did for Marianne this last Monday, just to listen to someone else lead the service, to stand and sit when invited to do so, and to sing hymns appropriate to the person that we're remembering. There were 2 unique and remarkable different Let me say that again. There were 2 unique and remarkably different books in the library that we call the Bible. And those books are Daniel and Revelation. These 2 are called apocryphal books. And they talk about a time when the faithful will be rescued from present persecution and find rest and refuge in a new age, where God will eradicate pain and suffering and grief. In this new age, the suffering of the righteous will be replaced with pure joy. So the message of these 2 books is hang in there. Better times are coming. In the passage that I read from the book of Revelation, the writer encourages his readers to look past the present persecution of the faithful to the day when the new age arrives, where God will, this is a quote, will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. It's a picture of an ideal. There's no more death. There's no mourning. There's no crying. There's no pain. The apocryphal books see grief and crying and pain as part of the bad old days that will vanish when God brings the new kingdom, the new age. In the first 3 decades of my life as a minister, I served 2 different churches. And the first, out of seminary, was a small church in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I was at the base of Seneca Lake, which was the middle of the Finger Lakes, in a town called Montour Falls. I was there for about 2 years. Then I went to Northbrae Community Church in Berkeley, and I was there for 27 years. Then when we moved to Kentucky in 1997, that was my first retirement of several retirements that I went through. None of them really resulted in me going home and sitting in my recliner. When we reached Kentucky after about a year, I became the grief guy for hospice in Maysville, Kentucky. And because it was just too big a mouthful to say I was the bereavement facilitator, I decided to coin the phrase, the grief guy. And that's what I was for 5 years. I learned a lot. I discovered that grief is a process that all of us human beings share. None of us gets away or is exempt from grieving. It's common to us all. Because we are mortal, life for us and those whom we love has both a beginning and an end. And coming to terms with loss, all kinds of loss, but coming to terms with loss is a universal human process that we all experience, but one that we, at the same time, very seldom talk about. We human beings don't like change. If things change, as they ultimately always will, it brings us a loss of what used to be. And that's why we don't like change. It always hands us a loss that we have to come to terms with. We can deny our losses. We can try to bargain our losses out of our way. We can try to dissolve our losses in the heat of our anger. We can try to drown our losses in the tears and sadness. But in the end, no matter how we choose to respond to our losses, we have to incorporate them into a new normal if we hope to live healthy and full human lives. One of the things I've learned about grief is that when you try to avoid it, all that happens is it gets bigger so that you'll notice. When you hide it from yourself, the old griefs will just piggyback on new losses that come along inevitably. The only way out is through. We all have to deal with change and loss in our lives. It's part of what it means to be human. It's a universal process. These days, we see people who are angry about what they have lost. They're mad that things have changed. It's not like it used to be. Anger is one facet of grief, and it happens to us all, but some people get stuck in the anger phase and they don't move on to a new normal. And some politicians have discovered this anger and have capitalized on it And their slogan, one way or another, is, "Elect me and I will restore what you feel you have lost." Coming to terms with loss and grief is a hidden facet of even our national politics these days, although we really don't see the role that grief plays in generating our anger. We should take a good look at it and address what it is we could do to help people move into a new normal. I have a prayer to suggest to us that may help us deal with the universal human process of coming to terms with loss and change. This prayer, along with the serenity prayer of the AAs, helps to keep me both sane and positive. Dag Hammarskjöld was a former Secretary General of the United Nations, and he kept a diary. And after his death, his diary was discovered. It was written in Swedish, and his diary was translated and published as Markings by Dag Hammarskjöld. And it contains a brief prayer on just one page, one entry of his diary that I think pertains to our human struggle with loss and grief. And he wrote this: "God, for all that has been, thanks. For all that will be, help me to say yes." I'm going to repeat that. For all that has been, thanks. And for all that will be, help me to say yes. Now, God bless you. If you find value in this, I would encourage you to pass it along. Thanks so much. Take care. See you soon.